Welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello everybody and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. It is indeed Wednesday and we've made it all the way through half of the week, I guess. It's great to be back and we've had some fantastic interviews over the last couple of days even. Friday was fantastic, Ian Rankin. I did have a sore head on Saturday. And then Sunday we had Ali Reynolds, who I mispronounced, but that was fantastic as well. In fact, her book arrived today, Chris, I got that. And Mr. Hooley is here with me, who has a bit of a sore voice from all his hard work he's been doing. But how are you doing, Chris?
Yeah, I haven't spoken all day, so this is a privilege. I didn't even speak to my girlfriend. And my baby, who's like 3 weeks old, he was just looking at me as if to say, like, why aren't you speaking? Wow. But yeah, I've got on lots of honey and lemon and lots of, well, hot toddies. Before the show. So
we were discussing, it is hard on the voice, but we're talking about how singers, they perform for like hours and hours on end every day for years. It must be absolutely exhausting on the voice. But we do an extra interview and it completely just knackers my voice. And that's between three people.
Yeah.
So anyone else feel like it's been a long week on the chat? Hello to you all. Good to see you all. And I don't know, kind of. I guess all the days kind of feel like they've merged into one over the last couple of months, if not a year or so. It's a long time. It's over a year now, right?
Yeah, definitely. One day. It was a novel by David Nicholson, but it's also the feeling of everyone at the moment. It's just one long day.
Excellent. So we have a fantastic guest on for you today. You may have seen the little video that this man did for us on Twitter, which we found hysterical. It was to do with radiators, of course, and a spinning dog, in which case we will try and figure out the name. Last time we had a pet on the show, we took a long shot at guessing the name of that pet. So if we do that and someone comments the right name and our guest confirms that, we will give you some sort of a prize. But let's get the guest on so we can get
are we not doing a beer token?
Oh, of course we are. Chris, I'm getting excited, getting ahead of myself.
Come on, Chris.
I'm distracted by radiators. So today's beer token book promotion is from a former guest of ours, and that is G Radcliff.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you to you for sponsoring this show. And her book is called The Last Prince, and it's the second book of a little series, and it looks fantastic. It's currently had 8 ratings, and it's 4.7 out of 5. It's available as ebook and paperback, and again, second in the season. Robbed of his childhood by tragedy and betrayal, and forced onto the streets, only fury makes young Ninian feel whole. In a world of gangs and fae, Ninian is more than willing to fight for his life.
Oh, nice. That is a prequel, isn't it? Because we had her talking about the Hidden King on the show, and that's a bit of a prequel.
It is indeed, and there's the cover, Chris. It does look fantastic, and I love the nice flaming phoenix on that cover, and the blues are really nice colours.
And do you know what I really like about her books as well? She has dyslexia-friendly ones.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't even know that was possible, but
Is that to do with the colour of the pages?
No, it's the font, the typing.
Okay.
How the font is structured. It's a little bit bigger, and I think it's in Comic Sans, possibly. But yeah, I was really surprised when I saw that. I was like,
very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so no, genuinely, that's interesting. So today's guest, let's get that person on. And Chris, do you want to say the name, or have you already forgotten it?
You've already got it. It's, I want to say, Caimh. Caimh McDonnell, or CK McDonald.
McDonnell, no D.
Yeah, McDonnell, as on the front of this cover, The Stranger Times. We did say
Caimh.
There we go.
Okay.
Surely we got it right.
Let's get him on. Hello, CK McDonnell.
That was a selection of terrible attempts, boys. Congratulations.
This is how we roll. This is the most unprofessional show you've ever seen. It's brilliant.
Caimh sounds like I'm literally from a fantasy novel. It's great. No, it's Queeve. That's what it is.
We just talked about this guy. So
you almost got it on both sides, and it just felt like you were veering off every which way. But yes, it's Queeve. But don't feel bad. Everybody gets it wrong.
Well, first things first, fantastic to have you here. It really is. And we're very excited. And thank you for joining us on,
great. Pleasure to be here.
A very busy Wednesday evening. If you weren't here, I'm sure everyone's very busy. And it's good to see that every guest we have on seems to have a fantastic bookshelf behind them, and you were no exception to that rule.
Yeah, well, though mine is really bloody messy. I keep meaning to sort it out, to be honest. I have to, because I'm doing a book launch for my friend Mark Stay tomorrow as well, and we did a warm up yesterday. I looked at it and went, "Oh, I need to get rid of that big camera." That's why I'm going to make a short film thing that happened 5 years ago that I never did.
Wow.
But yeah, it's all sticking up there. I still have boxes. We moved like 16 months ago. You can't see, but I still have boxes of books around me that I've not opened.
Well, there's one thing I saw on your website that I want to talk about because it's in relation to your name, and it's a fantastic quote. It says, "In January 2021, I will put my undies outside my trousers and assume the new identity is CK McDonnell." So, did we waste our time trying to pronounce that name, or are you still kind of?
Yeah, no, I'm still rocking both. There's 9 books out with Caimh now, which is all the Dublin trilogy and beyond, and then CK is my traditional debut.
Wow.
Where I'm now with Transworld and Penguin Random House, but that's an entirely different genre, which is kind of the logic of doing CK. Mm-hmm. That and the fact that, I'll be honest, my English publishers, you can see when we said in the meeting, it was actually like a lunch, and my editor, you can see his face when we said, I think maybe we should just use something else, and his face lighting up like, oh, I don't have to bring this up because I didn't want to be the English guy telling the Irishman his name was unusable. So yeah.
Amazing. So for the people that may be watching that haven't discovered your work yet, can we have a little, in fact, we'll do that in a minute, talk about your work, but can we have a little dig into sort of the past and why writing became something in your life?
Well, I sort of had, like everybody, I had the idea for a book for ages. I was working as a stand-up comedian and I was writing for various TV things and stuff, and I wrote a lot of kids' TV as well, which was kind of an unexpected part of the journey. I wasn't thinking I was going to go on, but I ended up going down it. So yeah, I had an idea for a book, which I've never written, by the way. But I started doing a master's at MMU because I live in Manchester, and I kind of got halfway through it. The workshops were brilliant. If anyone's done those things, I kind of highly recommend the workshops because that's when you're sitting around. And I started doing short stories because I'd written loads of scripts, didn't really know how to write prose, so I started writing short stories. And we kind of brought them in and we read them out there, and that was great for affirmation, kind of early doors. And one of the short stories I wrote, I kind of had an idea for, which was a guy who keeps getting confused for other people. He literally keeps that's where the name of Man at One of Those Faces came from. He keeps getting confused for other people, but I kind of realized when I started trying to write it, I had no idea what it was actually about because it had no inciting incident, if you know what I mean. It was just the premise. He was going around the hospitals visiting dementia patients. And then I had the idea of one of them trying to kill him. And that instantly was like, I really liked the idea. And then I thought, that's not a short story. There's way too much there. And then I ended up writing my first novel. Honestly, I thought it was just going to be something me and my wife might read. But I was doing it as a practice. And people liked it. And it sort of went on from there, I guess.
It's amazing to think that way, that a lot of writers actually come into the game with a doubt and sort of lack of confidence in their work, but yet it still kind of takes off. Were you surprised, obviously, then starting that piece of work and you thought it was very much in-house, but then people were responding really well to it?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird because honestly, we liked it, and my wife was like, "This is good," and we got a couple of people, and they liked it and stuff. And then we tried to do the traditional route first time round, and I think weirdly we sent it off just before we went on honeymoon. And I can remember, like, after 2 days, an agent got back to us and wanted to read it. And we were like, "Oh, this is brilliant! This is when the bidding wars are never gonna stop." No one else came back to us, and to be honest. In hindsight, I'm fairly sure that agent, after we had the meeting, was more checking if I knew anybody famous who was wanted to write a book. I think it was less to do with me. So we literally kind of had that and no one else was interested. And we actually got told comedy and crime don't mix. I've kind of said this in other interviews, but we genuinely got the feedback it was too funny and too Irish, which was kind of like the breaking point where my wife went, all right, we're doing this ourselves. And we were very wary of doing it ourselves, being self-published and all that, because we had, the stigma and all that. But then I started doing research and we started looking into it, and eventually we decided to go that way. And luckily they took off, which is fantastic. And the great thing about that is if you do it yourself and you get it and it goes okay, then you come back to agents and stuff, and all of a sudden you're not the one doing the begging. Well, that's maybe strong. Let's just say you're on a more equal footing. I wouldn't say my agent begged me. That's being. But they genuinely were more interested because they saw that you had an existing fan base and stuff, and it made a big difference.
So for your writing, in fact, for your TV writing, you were nominated for a BAFTA.
Yeah, well, a kid's BAFTA, but it still counts.
Yeah, of course it does.
Just a small one.
Yeah. No, but no, I was nominated. We actually only found out 2 years later. We got to it was a dead heat, and they had to re-vote it. So we lost out on it. We lost out because the chairman's vote counted double, apparently, against a very good kids TV series. To be fair, because it was for a cartoon series I created. And yeah, no, I went to the kids BAFTA, turned up my tux. Found out that you don't wear a tux to the kids' BAFTA, and genuinely, I was kind of nervous going out. It was in a big fancy London hotel. It's not my normal operating, if I'll be honest. I turned up, realized other people weren't wearing a tux except the waiters, and it was like, oh, I literally remember watching the taxi just drop me off and going, oh, I should get back in that. But yeah, I ended up going. We had a lovely time, and it was my one experience of the sort of glitz and glamour of the BAFTAs. Yeah, so there we go. Wow,
claim to fame there, and the
yes,
I've got a good impression that in my mind now, getting on that film scene. So go on, Chris.
No, I was going to say when you first sat down, you've got your first finished novel there in front of you, and you're thinking this is good. You like it, your wife likes it, and then you get some feedback from agents, and you're thinking, do you know what? I need to go on my own. How do you even go about approaching that? Because like you said, there's a stigma attached to it and stuff like that. Like, how did you, as a couple, get together and go, do you know what? We're going to do this and we're going to do it properly and we're going to make a success of it?
Yeah, well, I kind of started doing a lot of research where there was a lot of podcasts that were very useful, a couple of which are gone now and stuff, but at the time. So there's kind of a lot of resources like that. I mean, if anyone's actually genuinely now thinking of doing that, I would say my first port of call is there's a brilliant guy called David Cochran who gives away a ridiculous amount of information. And like, he doesn't even have a course. He has like a free course he gives away now, actually. And all he has is books that are like $4.99. You buy those. It's none of these thousands of pounds for a course. And Cochran's brilliant. I mean, I personally know him. I got to know him. I was lucky enough to get to know him, and he's a good lad. I look like a fat version of him, to be honest with you. He's got a fantastic beard. Because we're both Irish, and we genuinely look like a before and after picture. We sat around. I've met him now and sat around in pubs when we both go back to Dublin and then done a few drinks. But he's genuinely a great resource. I mean, it's a lot easier now, even than it was a few years ago. But yeah, I started just doing the research, and it was one of those things where you sort of put the first book out, and I'll be honest, we thought we'd made a terrible mistake initially. We were like genuinely everyone thought, it wasn't like it was instant success. But I think we weirdly got a guy called Scott Pack. Who this is how naive we were. I didn't realize who Scott Pack was, and only for somebody I was on a course with my course with got really excited when he found out Scott Pack edited my book, because he's a very well-known person in British publishing, and he used to be like the head buyer for Waterstones and stuff. And we were like, oh, we just got him from Readsy, the website, and he's like, and he actually read the book, and he rang me up. He actually asked for a phone call, and I thought, he's going to tell me he hasn't done it. It's going to be like the Too Irish and Too Funny guy all over again. And he actually rang me up and said, why have you not got a publishing deal? I was like, well, basically nobody in the industry read the book. And he's like, well, would you like a publishing deal? Because I do this quite a lot, and this is pretty good. And he was like, well, we've bought a cover now. Like, genuinely was. We had bought a cover, and I was like, I've told people it's coming out in September. Which in hindsight was kind of silly, but luckily it worked out great. If I could do it again, I'd definitely do it that way, because the great thing about doing it yourself is you don't have to be on the one book a year structure that isn't everything in trad, but most of them do work that way. Because like, thinking back now, bear in mind that was 2016 that book came out, and realistically, if I'd waited, it would have been at least a year if we got a trad deal for the first book came out. So I'd probably be on maybe my third book if it was going well. Whereas as of now, I've written 10 and had 10 published, which is just great because I learned by doing it. I think that's the best way to do it. You learn by writing. I honestly think I've got better as I've gone along. I'd hope so anyway. But yeah, I mean, the self-publishing thing, to go back to the original question, I've completely wandered off from. There's loads of resources out there now, and it's incredibly easy. And if you do it right, which we did and we tried to do, you can make a very good product that people won't. Most readers wouldn't. The amount of readers' emails we get where we have to explain to them again that we're doing this ourselves, because they keep saying, "Oh, your publisher should put it out in hardback." It's like, well, that's us. But yeah.
Yeah, in the chat, there's a few comments. There's a lot of pros and cons in self-publishing. You know, we've spoken about that to length on the show, I think, and it's one of those things that suits some people, it doesn't suit others, and you've got to sort of learn, as you said, you learn the process, and that works out whatever's best for you.
Yeah, but to be honest, as someone who's now traditionally published, because the thing about self-publishing is you have to hustle. To be honest, doing traditional way, you kind of have to do it as well anyway, because you know, in this day and age, you have to be doing the social media and, you know, all that sort of stuff, because the idea that you just put your book out and then the publisher sells it and they ring up and just dump money outside your house, that doesn't happen. Like, even, you know, the greats, even the big names do. Like, Lee Child is still signing books, you know what I mean? Like, you still have to hustle at every level.
Absolutely. So the books that you're writing now, and The Stranger Times, is one of 4, and something you classed as the best trilogy, 4-book trilogy.
Oh, you mean A Man at One of Those Faces, you mean? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. My notes there. The best 4-book trilogy you'll ever read.
Well, I didn't say. Did I say that? Oh no,
it's on your website. Yeah, it's great.
Is it? My wife writes that. How many books? Hang on. How many books are in Hitchhikers before I? Because is there 4 or 5 now? I can't remember.
Five in Hitchhikers.
Thank God for that.
They are very small. Yours are much bigger. So.
Yeah. I mean, no, yeah, I could take him on words. And let's be honest, I'm only going to start pulling away because he's not doing any more work. God rest him. But yeah, I'm not trying to get into a feud with a dead guy. I'm just saying I will work more than he will over the next 10 years.
Can we just let the people know that if they haven't sort of read your work, what that sort of premise is about, and
yes, they're set in Dublin, hence the name of the Dublin trilogy. Little tip: never given, like, seriously, don't ever call something a trilogy before you finished it. Because what happened is I did a prequel, and to be honest, I've got an idea for a book after the prequel, before the 4th one now, that we're trying to figure out. I was explaining this to my wife today. She was just sitting there going, "Oh, really? Oh, okay. I suppose we can figure out some way of explaining that to people." But yeah, it starts with the Man with Those Faces, and I mean, to be clear, I'm a big fan of Douglas Adams. I'm not happy he's dead. I'm just saying he is dead.
I never thought we'd do a Douglas Adams is dead joke on the community chat show.
I'm not happy about it. I'm just saying.
It's a fair shout, you know.
I mean, unless they discover some stuff written somewhere, he wasn't famous for missing deadlines. But yes,
it's not like music. You know, they can do the best of over and over, but you know, they don't do that with books. So.
I'm a big fan of Jeff Buckley, but if that man releases another album while dead, I am going to lose my. Good Lord. What was the question about? Oh, sure, I was supposed to be explaining those books, wasn't I?
Yeah.
There you are. Czechoslovakian as well, if you're a big fan of Czechoslovakian. But genuinely the funniest thing when your books turn up in foreign languages and you just put it in Google and you realise the name of the book is anyway nothing like the one you had originally. I'll just leave that there. I'm sure they know what they're doing. Yes, they follow. They're set in Dublin. I'll try that again. The main character is, well, there's 3 characters really, except in the prequel. There's Bunny is the main one. Bunny McGarry's the kind of breakout character that people recognise, who is a sort of Irish guard, a policeman for people not au fait with the Irish system. He was sort of unconventional, to say the least. He's a bit of a drunken lunatic. He's kind of the anti-hero in the sense that he's a bit of a slob, but he does have a kind of good moral core to him. And then Paul is a guy, when we first meet Paul, he's a guy who's living off a stipend from his dead grand-aunt, because she basically it was a weird thing with her will, and he's trying to win an argument with a dead person, not unlike myself with Douglas Adams, as it turns out, by proving he can live off this money and never get a job for reasons to become parent. And then Bridget is a crime obsessed sort of nut for crime books, who's working as a nurse. And when she gets involved in a situation where somebody tries to kill Paul after she introduces them to this nearly dead guy tries to kill Paul basically. And she's kind of secretly delighted because she loves crime and this is all of her dreams come true, which she sort of ends up kind of in the book. So that's where they start off, and then it follows them, and eventually they things happen, occurrences, events, people grow and die, and stuff happens after that. At that point, there you go, no spoilers.
So, being that something that you had planned on being a trilogy, and then you've obviously these ideas kept growing and growing. Has it been hard? And then it's been a review that I've got here, in fact.
Okay.
Yeah, this is off your latest book, and it says, "My favourite author, the way his mind works fascinates me. His books brighten my day and always makes me laugh somewhere along the way. The chapters are always quirky individuals Sorry, the characters are always quirky individuals, yeah, who take equal prominence in the books. Although this book has gone off in a totally different direction, it's got to be one of the best books I've read. So being something that's set out to be shorter than it is now, how have you kept that sort of running, the quality and sort of the surprise of a story going?
Well, I think because it's sort of, I mean, those are lovely words, but I think the sort of one of the big things I do is I have a rule where I don't want to ever write the same book twice, which is basically I wrote those 4 books and then, not the thing that's fairly obvious, but Bunny then goes to America and starts out on a new adventure coming out with those books, but it starts off on a new thing. And I think the big thing is character. Honestly, it's the main part of my work is I like inventing the characters. I grow attached to them. And then I just sort of the stories come out of that, and it's very much my approach to writing is heavily based in character, because as you're all well aware, and we all know why it is, and it's good salesman, but all the crime books that are billed as twisty, you'll never see coming, the twist that'll make you like five pages from the end, you'll never believe what happens, and I'm always like, that doesn't appeal to me. I understand why, and look, and there's some very good books that are described that way, and I get why it is, but my big thing is always. And I'm a big fan of Terry Pratchett, genuinely Douglas Adams as well. Again, sorry, Douglas. But those, Chris Brookmyre, all those. But what they all did was, and they all do, is they do great character. And I think that was something I wanted to emulate in my own way, is I wanted to do characters. Because I think if you care about the character, in all seriousness, you want to see what happens to them. Not what happens in the story, it's them in the story. I think people sort of get so focused on twists and things like that. And personally, I think everything's from character. And the thing about everything coming from character is then you want to revisit those characters. I realized I didn't think I was writing a series when after written the first one, when I wanted to be with those characters again. And I like spending time with them. And, I've now written, Bunny is in 7 books I've now written. And I did a spin-off called The Final Game, which features Paul and Bridget and the other people from the Dublin trilogy without Bunny. And honestly, I end up, even when Bunny went to America, I tried to start it be much more like a frankly Jack Reacher, Lee Child type of thing, where it'd be him on his own and much more standalone. And the first thing I did was come up with characters that I really liked that he met on the way. And like Smithy and Diller are 2 of the main characters. And they ended up getting their own book that I wrote last year just because I enjoy writing them so much. So I guess the thing is I keep growing the family, and then you're going to keep the plate spinning, I guess.
So with the Stranger Times, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently, and the general consensus is since Terry Pratchett has gone, God bless him, Douglas Adams has gone, there doesn't seem to be a market for funny anymore, especially in British literature. There's not a market where, big publishers in the past, they would take funny on board and they would publish funny, but that doesn't seem to be the case. But with your book, obviously it's funny, it's hilarious, as your other books are as well. So why do you think people have decided to take a punt on this? And do you hope it'll be sort of like a pioneer to bring back the funny in British literature? I
guess there are ones. I think there is genuinely, and I've said this I actually said this on a thing before, and it ended up being a headline in an article on a website I wasn't quite expecting. But it's true, I'll say it again. British publishing, you're dead right, is scared of funny. And I honestly don't know where that comes from. And as for, to be honest, why Transworld took a punt on it, and they were we had a lot of interest, but they were the sort of early, well, to be honest, they were like the first big thing that came in was Transworld, and Transworld were Terry Pratchett's publishers, and Terry Pratchett, I have every single book he's ever written somewhere in this house. He's my all-time hero. And when they came in, I was and I think, to be honest, it comes down to, we had editors say, and quite rightly said they liked the book, and then said they went to their bosses, and literally, I think 2 editors came back to my agent and said, I love it. I went to the bosses, and like you said, the funny thing scared them off. And my editor Simon, who's a wonderful editor at Transworld, he was able to go to Transworld, and they went, and he basically said, if anyone made that argument, you turn around and go, do you want to see the big picture of Terry Pratchett again? So I guess they were happy to take the chance, I guess, is the answer. I mean, they could answer that better than me, but yeah, I mean, it is. And it is the weird thing, by the way, in Germany, they don't have that problem. In Germany, we had most of the major publishers were all bidding on the books, and we ended up getting, a big deal in Germany because the Germans had no problem with it. I don't know why that is. I mean, there are funny fantasy. Ben Aranovich is, it's not, he's not aiming for funny all the time, but there's certainly a strong element, and he's a brilliant writer. So there are people around like that, and Ben Aranovich's books are very successful, as they should be. They're great. But yeah, I guess overall, though, you're right. There is that thing about funny. I mean, there's certain types of funny they're okay with. Like it's that sort of, I think the chick lit thing, which I know a lot, I think a lot of authors don't like it, that idea, and I can see why, and I know a lot of women dislike the term, and again, I can see why. But they do seem to think funny aimed at women is an easier sell. And then obviously funny in the terms of biographies and autobiographies of famous people, they're fine with that. I mean, I know a lot of mates who've written, comedians who've written autobiographies, and they sell very well. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can almost see that as a headline. Germany is funnier than British or the Brit.
Yeah, well, they genuinely seem happier with it. We didn't get like my agent said this, but there was none of that in Germany, and it was really odd. But it is what it is. I think it's one of those things you just hope it'll, it's one of those things it gradually builds. And the fact the bunny books that we probably never got any kind of good publishing deal if we'd come out with them on our, but because we did them on our own, genuinely, weirdly, we have people writing to us all the time asking, are there any, I've read all your books, can you recommend any other books like yours? Because it's so hard to find books like yours. And it's almost like, in a weird way, that like we did this when publishing told us you couldn't, and now publishing, God bless them, are forming a wall around us and stopping everybody else from getting into our space. It's like they're being very good that way. So yeah, but look, I can honestly tell you, if anyone's writing that kind of book, take heart. There is, if you do it and you get it reason, do it well, and you do a good quality thing, there's audiences out there, and if they find you, they will respond to it. And being different from everything else on the market does help when it comes to word of mouth.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was just going to say, if we go back to Douglas and we talk about him in a positive light at this moment.
I was not being negative. I just pointed out he was dead. I mean, if anyone didn't know that, I'm apologizing for breaking it to you.
Spoilers, guys.
Wondering why he's not written anything for a while.
Yeah, he has been. I mean, George R. R. Martin's been bad, but no one's talking about Douglas. He's been very lazy.
But yeah, obviously he's got a huge fan base of fans that appreciate his Hitchhiker's series and his Dirk Gently series as well. And I should imagine most of those fans would really appreciate the Stranger Times. Are you hoping that sort of happens and you get sort of that same niche following as Douglas had?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, you're always wary of the comparisons and stuff like that. But we did get reviews, and it was actually Terry Pratchett was the one that got mentioned a lot, which again is very nice. But you do, because quite right. If I'm a massive Terry Pratchett fan, and I read that, and a lot of them we go sort of go, oh, who does this so and so thinks he is? How dare he? It's like I'm not saying that, because it's very different to Douglas Adams. Douglas Adams was, in all seriousness, an absolute genuine. The definition of the word genius is 100% applicable to him, in the sense that he just did things nobody else would ever thought of doing. And he's been copied so many times so badly. And even then with Terry Pratchett, when people say stuff like Terry Pratchett, I've read it and I went, I don't think they've figured out the magic formula, which isn't, you can copy some elements of stuff, but it's not the same as getting the magic formula. And I think they're both, they get compared a lot, but they're very, in their own way, they're both very, very different writers to each other. So you do hope you'll kind of get that audience, and the logic is that you kind of think people who like that probably will like this, but it's always a dangerous challenge. Like, I think I can say this. I know Transworld, because they published Terry Pratchett, they are very wary about ever using his name on stuff, because they know that the fan base will, quite rightly, are very protective of him, as they should be, as indeed are his family and stuff. I mean, I presume you've seen the stuff about the watch that the BBC America made. If you're in it, they've made a steampunk version of it, sort of based on the idea. I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment. But I am in the Terry Pratchett fan groups, and I can tell you they've had to have posts where they go, can we have one angry, I want to hunt down and kill these people post a day, and everybody comment on that. Please do not create 15 different death threats. Let's keep all the death threats in one nice group. And in all seriousness, they are very angry about it. And and it's because it is, I think they're now trying to get something that's more in the spirit, the original thing of Terry Pratchett. Look, people change stuff for TV and all that, but my point is, fan bases of people like Terry Pratchett and Douglas Adams are rightly very protective. So you do have to be careful of suggesting, that stuff belongs there. It has to ultimately, if fans say it, then great. But that's the only way you can really do that.
Chris, we're approaching half an hour, or we are at half an hour. Do you want to get some questions in?
Yeah, fire away. I mean, I've got some in case we don't get any more. But
Writing community questions. Come on.
Yeah. The writing community. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot that we're on a show that has staple questions. So one of the staple questions that we have on the show is if you could take any character and make that character your own and have a crack at it, maybe, take them into one of your own books or make an entirely new book or sort of tweak a book that they're already in. Which character would that be and why?
Oh, God, that's a good and vicious question, may I say.
Vicious.
Oh, God. I mean, I don't want to sound like a man who just keeps banging the same drums, but my favorite character is probably Sam Vimes from Pratchett. But at the same time, I don't like the idea of anybody else writing something with him in it. I mean, there's so many great characters. Death from the Pratchett books again is amazing. It's weird how it sort of ended up defining the entire concept of death. If anyone else tries to do it, people just go, it's not the same. It's not as good as Pratchett's one. But I'll say death. I'll say if I could, I'd take death into a thing. But I'd have to write something very different because he can't really turn up in a comedic crime novel. I mean, he could, but it's taken a left turn. But yeah, I'll go with death.
Nice, good choice.
So following on from that question, if you could change the ending to any story, what would you change? And if why? Why?
The last Rugby World Cup.
I agree.
Yeah, no. What could I change?
It could be for the better, of course.
No, I can't think of. I'll almost definitely change it for the worse.
Well, I can adapt that question because, Chris, I've kind of put an addition onto that question. It says, if you could replace a movie character or a book character with another character to make a really inappropriate film, who would you choose? Who would you replace with who?
That's a good question. Who would I replace with who? I think Alan Partridge replacing Iron Man would be great for the Avengers film. That'd be amazing. I mean, it'd be awful, but it'd be amazing awful. And I'm a big fan of both of those things. My current favorite thing, but I don't know if you've ever seen these videos, but if you haven't, they're great. Well, they're more actually audio things, but it's moments in the Avengers films. Someone's recorded the audience reaction from premieres in America of like proper fans. Yeah. And in the last Avengers film, not to give anything away, but if you're going to watch the Avengers film, you've seen it by now. The whole world has. But you know the bit where on your left scene where the thingy's open. The response, like American audiences going mental at that is wonderful. And they really are completely losing it. And it's a glorious thing.
Do you know, I completely agree with that sort of mindset, those programs, because I hate reality TV, but it comes to something like Gogglebox and I'm all in. I think it's hilarious. And especially, I watch The Walking Dead and things like that. And you can see on YouTube now plenty of these sort of shows that show fan reactions. And it's really quite attractive in a way to watch these people and their reaction to something that you've seen, to see, the extreme versions of it. I
do. I will say, just to be clear, I love those, but I don't want to be there when they happen. The last Planet of the Apes movie, and I love those films. The last one I was in on a Saturday night, myself and the wife made the mistake because I was when I was a stand-up. Yes, I was trying to remember the swearing rules. Was I allowed to say shit? He said shit first.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Thank God. I'll stop. But yeah, we went to see the last Planet of the Apes on a Saturday night in a packed cinema, and one of the guys behind us decided one of the apes looked like his mate, and every time the same ape came on, he started going, "Hey, it's Davey!" And I was like, I am. And the worst thing was, there was so many other people shouting stuff up. You went, I can't talk to him because then I'm going to go and talk to everybody. And it's a matter of time if somebody's going to punch me in the head. Yep. So, but I remember my wife was sitting there just feeling me getting more and more angry. So yeah, I love those reactions as long as I'm not there when they happen.
Yeah.
So we've got two more questions. One is a relatively new question for the Writing Community Chat Show, but it's, as a reader, what's one of your biggest pet peeves? Like, what do you hate reading? I
think genuinely kids in peril, and it kind of goes for TV shows as well. It's not so much kids, but you get introduced to a character's kids and you think this is just so someone can kidnap them. Do you know that way? And I know, look, it's been done in some very good books and very good films and stuff, but I'm now at the point that as soon as you meet one, I go, oh no, that kid's getting kidnapped. And it's usually a daughter, and it's always, at a certain point, it just feels like you're pushing an easy button. And look, as a writer, I can see why it's a great emotional, trick that works. But that really irritates me at this point, I think.
Brilliant. And then the next question is, you're on your deathbed. Bit morbid, but we have talked about death already. So you're on your deathbed, you're looking back at your writing career. What are you happy with? What is success to you?
What is success to me? Well, I think it's, to be honest, success is kind of, I'm lucky enough now where I'm in a position where, because my books have gone so well, my wife actually now works for our company. And I think that's genuinely, that's great, because I don't really, I don't want a swimming pool. I'd look ridiculous in a sports car. I genuinely just, if you gave me £1 million tomorrow, I just sort of go, oh, I should probably get a pension sorted out properly. I just, but the great thing is we do have ironically, given the year we're still living in, I don't care what anyone says, it's still 2020. I'm not calling it 2021 until it starts behaving like a new year. But yeah, I kind of just enjoy myself, the wife, and the dog can get in the car and go somewhere, and nobody gets to say boo to us. And I finished a novel last year in Wicklow in Ireland, where I was in 2 weeks of isolation, so we could spend Christmas with my mother. And the fact that we can do that and we can just take our whole life and move up like that, I think is wonderful. And I genuinely love that as being part of my thing. So the fact that I can do that, people enjoy the book. So you get emails from all over the world, which is lovely. And you do well enough that you can do that. That's all I want from life.
Fantastic.
That's a great answer. My question that arose there, because I know I would be the same if I was lucky enough to be in your position, but do you ever look at your wife and sort of go like, oh, you're a bit late to work today, and then dock your pay?
This is live on the internet. No, of course I don't. Yeah, no suicidal man? Good God.
No overtime for you.
No, she gets up when she wants. She does whatever she wants, and I love her when she's doing it. Good God, man.
That is the ultimate
my wife
answer.
is already far too good for me. I'm not going to slag her off on the internet.
Throw in the questions, Chris. You carry it. Right, so not new section. The next section of this is called the new family member of the writing community. What we do is someone that's followed the show on Twitter, and they've got quite a small following, we kind of give them a bit of a shout out, and we send them a GIF, GIF, that is sort of selected by you, any theme, and we will do that very shortly after our little video that I will play when I find it. There you go. So
that rocks surprisingly hard.
So Mary Ossie Opong at Mary Ossie _Opong.
Hang on, is this the names you can't pronounce theme show? What the hell is it? You just think I'm going to get one wrong? Let's just get everybody awkward on at the same time.
Hey, our train goes downhill, wreck, whatever happens. Anyway, I thought I did quite well with that name.
Mary Ossie Opong.
Yeah, it's kind of what I said. So she's a mother, a teacher, an author, human rights activist, diversity in the teaching profession, ambassador, children, citizen of the world. She's got 1,002 followers. That is her. Thank you.
How are you, Mary? She looks like she'd be related to my wife. Hello, Michael.
So please, can we send her a GIF? And what can we send her? Is there something that you like?
Radiators seem like an obvious choice.
Oh, it does.
Because there's that GIF, whoever sent me the GIF of the different radiators.
That was me.
That was very good. Although I am worried now that people will genuinely think I'm interested in radiators. I'm not. I literally my wife just said, the radiators are in the picture, and I just went, we'll use it.
So she even scripted the video for you.
Well, no, she just literally went. She was holding the camera and went, "Oh, people can see the radiators," and I went, "We'll use it."
But my question is, how did you get the dog to spin around at the end of the video?
Oh, mate, it's getting them to stop. This is the tricky bit. It's generally he has his food about 6:30. Then we have what we call dick hour, which is basically the dog being a fucking nightmare. Where he literally, I've got a bad back and I was doing stretching exercises. The dog just keeps picking up every toy he has, bringing it over and dropping it on my face.
Oh god.
No, he's a brilliant dog. But we did the book launch for Stranger Times there about 3 weeks ago now, and. The highlight of the launch with a couple hundred people was we had Diller. Oh, They had the dog. I think I've ruined the competition. Sorry. We had the dog. He does a trick where he'll spin pirouette for chicken. And we told people he was going to do that as part of the live thing. And you should see the numbers. It's like literally it's going up, it's going up. People are coming in. We're doing the questions. Dog does his trick, and then we're gone. It was like literally for the last 15 minutes. It was like, where'd everybody go? They just like, we just wanted to see the dog. My fan base are now very obsessed with the dog, and we send them once a month email, which always has to have something about the dog, or people write to us and go, "Is the dog okay?"
Yeah.
So yeah,
maybe we need a dog, Chris.
Yeah. Although when it gets out that Writing Community Chat Show are doing Dick Hour, then we'll get a big audience.
I'm sure it will increase with our fan base. Anyway. So where's that? There she is, Miri. So please follow her on Twitter. And are we going with radiators?
Or a pirouetting dog?
Either a pirouetting dog or a radiator.
Sure. Right, I'm trying to think do I have a handy picture of my dog pirouetting? And
if you do that, please mention that the Writing Community Chat Show, welcome to family, or whatever you want to say, just so she knows some sort of context of where this has come from.
Yeah,
not to completely freak her out.
Yeah, spinning dogs. Just send her spinning dogs.
Spinning dogs.
Any spinning dog. People love dogs. Trust me.
So when you're doing that, everybody,
I could go with the Dick Hour theme and send that.
Oh, well, that's up to you.
Yeah, that feels like it may be misconstrued. I say misconstrued. It's a naked bloke. It's very hard to misconstrue that.
So when they're sending those maybe inappropriate gifts, is there an author that you recommend that people should read?
Oh, God, there's many. Obviously, the ones you've mentioned, though I'd imagine most people have heard of them by now. There's let me think. Mark Stay, whose book I've just finished, The Crow Folk, which is launching tomorrow. It's generally great. It's kind of it's a World War II witch book set in the sort of rural England, and it's great, really good. Just a lovely comfort read as well, which I mean in the best way possible. Stuart Neville, Irish crime writer, is brilliant. The Ghost of Belfast, which I think is called The 12. Actually, it's called The 12 here. It's called The Ghost of Belfast in America. I think that it's, I mean, I haven't read them all by any means, but as Irish crime books, I think there's nothing better. It's a phenomenal book. It's one of those things where it's somebody being followed around by the ghosts of the 12 people he's killed. And it's a good concept, but the execution takes it to another level. It's amazing. Wow. Adrian McKinty's, he had a big success with The Chain. I'm sure you've possibly seen that recently, but his books before that were great books as well. Again, set in Northern Ireland. Genuinely quite, funny without being the main part of it, but really well written crime books. Ian Sainsbury, I love his stuff as well. I'm trying to think, there's so many I should probably. I can't remember the name of the guy. Greg Hurwitz as well. He's got a book coming out. He does. If you like thrillers, he is, I think, the best in the business right now. He's going to be the new Leo. They're going to call him the new Lee Child at some point. Because he's basically taken the concept of sort of somewhere like 007, which has been done. That kind of 007 guy in their own thing has been done a lot. Let's be honest. And he just does it so well. He gave it a new spin, and he just writes it so beautifully, and he does action so incredibly well that it's some of just the easiest books in the world to read. So compelling once you get into them. So I highly recommend his books. Orphan X books, fantastic.
Sounds fantastic.
So that's about 7 authors there for that one.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of writing about Manchester, there's only 2 authors that I know, other than yourself, obviously, that have tackled Manchester. And I'm from Manchester, so I actively seek out people who write books about Manchester. One of them is Joseph Knox, who writes...
Joseph Knox, sorry, Joseph. I've just remembered Joseph Knox. Oh, God, I know him, and I got drunk on him in Harrogate. But he's also a massive fan of his books. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, one of them's him. He writes great books about Manchester, and his main character... Aidan Watts is obviously in Manchester as well. And then we got Chris McDonnell, who we had on the show, who wrote A Wash of Black. And he writes in Manchester as well. So what was the appeal of writing in Manchester for you, and why did you decide to do that?
Well, first, I live here, which is a big part of it. And I've lived here now for about a decade. And it kind of, people start asking you, would you not write something in the kind of area you're based? And weirdly, the idea for The Stranger Times, I mean, I've said before, I had it 15 years ago, like the editor character and stuff. He was exactly as he is, the same kind of caustic, horrible drunk that he is now. I did a sitcom script with him 15 years ago, but it didn't go anywhere. And then I was walking to my office in Manchester, and literally there's a the church that they have the office in is on the way between my old flat and my office. And I just thought of the idea one day when I went to the shower. By the time I got to my office, it was all there, and it just felt perfect for Manchester. Because Manchester, as you know well, has its own vibe. It has its own, I genuinely love living here because I describe it like being like the Dublin I grew up in, where the arts are a big thing here and stuff. It has its own, frankly, chippiness about it. It's this, the feeling that it doesn't get, it doesn't get the regard it should and all that sort of stuff, which I kind of like. I think I said this before, but the first time I was ever in Manchester, long before I ever lived here, I think I was up for a gig. I was doing a place called the Frog and Bucket. I was walking down the street in the middle of the day, killing time, and I saw a kid drop some litter. And this sort of old lady literally went up behind him and whacked him on the back of the head and told him to go pick it up. And I just thought, wow, that's pretty cool. And he did. And I just kind of like Manchester has an attitude about it, which made it fun to write. And it's also, the more I started looking into it and I used to live in the city centre, kind of soaking the place up, there was so many things that I wanted to bring in that really are uniquely Manchester, that it just felt like the perfect place to do something like this.
And in terms of obviously the plot with this sort of magical underworld in a place that we know and we can recognize as well, what made you do that? What made you take on that sort of magical fantasy element and then try and put it in sort of the real world?
I think it was just because I kind of had the idea for the newspaper, and I literally the sort of logic went that I wanted to do something like the 14 Times. I wanted a sort of tabloid, weird newspaper. And then when I was literally thinking about the idea, because I enjoy it, I thought, well, what's going to have to happen? And the logic thing was they have to find out that some of it's real. And then, and look, that's not a concept by any means I've invented. If Ben Aranovich is the exact same, so does Jim Butcher. When I say the exact same, that idea that magic exists under the surface of the world we live in. But I think the big thing then is you're just trying to find your own way of doing it. And I kind of come up with something, not to go too much deep now, but I came up with an idea that vampires don't exist, but they're an allegory for what does exist. And that there is this sort of uneasy balance between certain elements of the world. And I think it's one of those things, it's kind of fun where you just think, right, well, what can I do as my spin on it? And yeah, but the idea that appeals. And again, it's a tricky thing too. Mark Stay does it lovely in his book, where he has the thing where magic happens and then people who aren't magical can't really focus on it. So they end up sort of explaining it away in their own minds, which is kind of what a lot of people, which makes a lot of sense in human nature as well. So it's always a challenge to find a fresh way of doing that. But yeah, that was the idea behind it. It just seemed natural that would be the case.
Yeah. So should we get into some writing community questions? I think so.
Yeah.
So let's see if we've got any that's sent in. That'd be nice. Does it get any easier after writing the first book? Been working on mine for a while now.
I can say categorically it definitely does. Because you've already written a book. Like, silly as that sounds, when you're having that moment of doubt and you go, oh, this isn't going anywhere and stuff, you go, well, I've done this before. And that, honestly, I find a great help. And as well, I find a great help because I wrote sitcom scripts for a long time that went nowhere and were optioned that didn't get anywhere and stuff. And the great thing I have now is when I'm sitting in my office down in the garden, is I'm having a good day or a bad day, you think, well, this is going somewhere. Like, people are going to read this eventually. Especially if you're independently published, you think they literally can't stop me putting this out. I don't care how anyone hates it. If I decide it's good enough, it's going out. The wife will have to wrestle the laptop off me. So it absolutely does get easier.
Fantastic. How many book ideas do you have right now?
Oh Lord. Because I'm literally about to start another book, and I was having a discussion with my mother, and she's asked me, what do you do? And I said, well, I've got several ideas, and I'm sort of working through them. He went, do you have writer's block? And he went, no, I think I have the opposite of what writer's block is, ma'am. I've got too many. So honestly, I have, there's a next book in the McGarry Stateside series, which actually I was supposed to write this year, but we were supposed to go to America to do a bit of research, and it's based in Brooklyn. And I think now I'll probably put that off. So I'm now thinking, it's sort of one of those things, once you realize I'm going to put that off till I can do the research properly, it's like, oh, I can go back to the massive file of ideas that I've been keeping on. So honestly, there's about between stuff in the series for both of the two different series, there's about 4 or 5 in each of them in various stages of rough or ready. And then there's about another 10, I'd say, of standalones that I one day hope to get to write.
So have you actually written some sort of drafts of some of these ideas?
I have sort of notes written down and all that sort of stuff, and I have various different ideas, things that I keep thinking I'll go back to, including that book I had the idea for before I started, when I went to do the Masters, which I've never written. which I do actually have quite a bit of the ideas in my head, but it's just a question with any idea. It's just a certain amount of stuff, because all that pantsing or plotting thing, and I'm weirdly kind of in the middle where I need a certain amount. I need to know where I'm going for the first few chapters, and then I need to have a couple of waypoints along the way. So I kind of have notes where I have some of those things written down, but not sort of like, I don't write out the entire plot for anything, because I never know it before I start.
Another question from Linda. How do you address the issue of your work being too niche? Is it more to do with the marketing or the work itself?
I mean, it's a very good question. I think luckily our stuff is it is niche, but it's not what you probably consider too niche. There's a wide enough thing for it. But I think that the big thing, just on a more marketing point of view and stuff, there always are some sort of comparison writers that you can go to. Like, I know my crime work gets compared to Carl Hyacin, Brooke Meyer, who's great, Colin Bateman, who's great, all those kind of people. So you sort of, once you have those people you can aim at, you sort of find ways of getting their audience through various marketing things. And it's just one of those things that hopefully at time fans of theirs will find you, and then they'll spread the word, because nothing beats word of mouth. But I think with too niche, I mean, it's hard to know without specifics of what the idea is, but it's be surprised. Anything can become a breakout hit if you get it right and you get people to care. I mean, with the Stranger Times, one of the nice things we've had is it's sort of, people have said it's paranormal for people who probably wouldn't normally read paranormal, which I think is a good thing. Because if you're not, like Joe Abercrombie, by the way, another amazing author I should also give a shout out to. I'm not a big fan of epic fantasy, and then I started reading his stuff, and oh my God, his books blew me away in the last year. Because he is just that good. It transcends the genre. So I think the trick is transcend the genre. There you go. Do that.
Wow. Simple.
Yeah, definitely.
Where do you rate Robbie Doyle?
Robbie Doyle. He's brilliant. He's an Irish national icon, and deservedly, I've read several of his books. I genuinely went back actually and started reading his, because he's got the Barrytown trilogy, which are the Van, the Commitments, all that sort of stuff. The Van, the Commitments, and what's the other one? The Snapper, I think. And I genuinely, I was shocked when I went back to them, because I've read them all, and I was shocked how they're like Train Spotting, in the sense that they're written in very specific local dialect. And I was amazed, because they were big international hits. And I must admit, as somebody who's always going, oh, can we use this Irish word? Can we not use this Irish word? I went back to Robbie Doyle and went, wow, we wussed out with a lot of stuff. We should have been way more. I mean, we do get a lot of emails from people in America asking what a gobshite is. Yeah, I think it's brilliant, is my answer.
How did you explain a gobshite to someone who asked in America?
You've elected one. That was, but yeah, that's basically. I think I did a sort of weird little thing at one point to frequently ask questions just to get around it. Because it did come up so much.
The strangest thing I've ever had is I had someone email me and ask me what a seal was. So I just sent them a picture of a seal, because I wrote about a seal in my book, and they were like, just a quick question, what's a seal? And I was like, oh my God.
Wow. That's like, when I was in Dubai doing gigs years ago, and I met a woman who'd never heard of Ireland. And I was like, what? And like, so she was trying to ask me to explain it to her, and I was like,
Wow.
It's like they just started randomly naming like Roy Keane, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know who Roy Keane is." I'm like, even I'm going, that's a terrible example. But yeah, Robbie Doyle is a much better one. But I'm guessing she hadn't read that either.
That must have been a tough explanation.
It's very weird, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was sorry, Chris. I was going to ask another question. If your traditional publishers now that you've gotten your with gave you the option to go back, and they said, we want to acquire your whole back catalogue, we're going to take your books on board. You can either leave them as they are, or you can change elements of them if you want. It's entirely up to you. What would you do in that scenario?
It wouldn't happen. But to quote, in all honesty, this is like they won't mind me saying this. It's nothing to do with Transworld, but as my agent literally has never tried to find a traditional publisher for my books, because he actually looked at the figures and went, if you're successful as a this is any self-published author, if you're successful, they go, they'll never give you as much money as you should take to give them the rights to it. Because that's the thing. If they're successful on your own, you're always... I mean, people have like the guy who did Wool and stuff went traditional and all that sort of stuff, but it is quite rare for that reason. But as for going back, I don't know, weirdly, because I've started rereading my oldest books, because we're doing a thing for my fan base where once a month we're going to do a book club where I'm going to read the book, like one of my own books, as well as give some recommendations. And then they can ask me any questions about it and stuff. And I kind of went back and reread my first one, just finished it now. And honestly, there's bits in it that I would maybe change the wording and stuff, but not a lot. I honestly, actually, the only thing I'd really change is the very first scene you meet Bunny McGarry, who's the breakout character. What always bothers me is he's not the way he is everywhere else. He's rude to a woman for no reason, and that's not part of his core thing, his character. And every time I read a bit of the dialogue, I just wince and go, that's just slightly wrong, because he wasn't fully formed in my head yet. And I always kind of literally after that point, I'm fine with what the characters do. And I go back and change. I have a canal, and I wrongly named the canal I grew up beside. And the canal, I call it the Grand instead of the Royal, and some woman got very angry. And we've since traced it back to the fact that my father got the name wrong 20 years ago, and I've always assumed he knew everything. So I've literally just always 20 years ago, 40 years ago. But yeah, so I don't think I would, because I know Joseph Knox did that where he rewrote his first book, which I'm fascinated to read, because he just decided he wanted to, which I think is an incredible thing. And I do want to reread it because I'm a huge fan of Joe's work. But yeah, I think because they're sort of pictures in time, and I think they reflect you as they are at the time, wanky, frankly, as that sounds. So I think I'd rather... I would also not call them a trilogy. I have to say that, because that's been something that's been hard to explain. But apart from that, I think I'd leave them as they are.
Fantastic.
Good question, though. I do like it.
Yeah, we'll have two more of the community questions, and then we'll wrap up a little bit. Okay, so Vince says, what's the most inspiring thing someone has said about your work?
This is a weird answer for you, but honestly, the best single thing I ever got was in the McGarry Stateside series, there's a character called Smithy, who is a dwarf, and I was very much I was kind of basing him on I'm going blank. What's the brilliant actor from Game of Thrones? Oh come on, one of us must know this, guys. The guy who's oh, someone knows that. Oh, what's that? Oh,
yeah, someone on the internet will know that.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
the three of us know.
You got to narrow it down.
The one who was a dwarf.
He's an elf. He's an elf. He's fantastic.
Tyrion Lannister in the character. I can't remember his name.
Oh, what's his name? Oh, God.
Someone will message us now. Just
hang on a sec. Oh no, hang on. Oh, that's
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea.
That. But it's because this is embarrassing because Peter. Thank you very much, Peter Dinklage. Because I like. The character was kind of my homage to him, because ironically, for a bloke who's just forgotten his name, I'm a huge fan of his work. I really have a worse head for names. But yeah, I was a huge fan of his work. So I kind of did him. I used as a basis, I thought there's some amazing speeches he gives about his career, because he was basically living on nothing and turning down thousands and thousands of dollars to do degrading adverts he would not do. And I kind of heard him talk about it. It was one of these university graduation things. And he was inspired. I was a fan of his acting. Then I saw that and thought, wow. So I kind of took him as a baser Smithy and went a different direction. But I was very nervous, sincerely writing a character that was a dwarf. I mean, also his mate Diller is also a black guy, and that is different issues. But I'm all right there because, look, in the sense that my wife is black, so and she reads everything first. So she is a natural reader to sort of get a good sense if I'm getting it right or not. Yeah. But I actually got the guy who's the head of the charity that does great work in Britain for people who are dwarves. He actually sent me an email and said, "This is the book that I've given to my daughter who is a dwarf," because they basically said that I think you've got the depiction right and did a great job of him being a fully rounded character. And I was delighted with that, because I was so in the back of your head. There's always that voice, and people talk about why authors don't write people of different colors to themselves and people with different disabilities. And I honestly think it's a lot of the time people are scared of offending somebody and getting it wrong. And now, obviously, it's your job to reflect all of humanity, and you have to do the research to try and get it right. But people are still scared of these things. And I was really pleased because I went for that. and that he felt I got it right. And jinx, touch wood, I've never heard anyone say otherwise, so hopefully I have. But that, I think, honestly, was the most inspiring thing, because it was so good to just think, I've got that right, thank God.
Fantastic. Wow. Yeah, really good. So the last question from the community, if I can find that now, because these all disappeared. It is, are you planning on writing your dog into any of your books?
Well, he is named after a character in the books, Diller, which is the previously mentioned lad from the McGarry Stateside things. So I do actually have in my books, she became a remarkably popular character where I had an ex-drug sniffer dog who basically is like Mel Gibson from Lethal Weapon. I did it because I love films with dogs in them. Yeah. And I, all those K9 and all those sort of things. A big Turner and Hooch, big fan of all them. I don't care what anyone says, still Hanks' best work. And I love them. So I wrote a short story where Bunny ended up having to save this dog from being put down because it went mental at a Garda barbecue and shat in the bouncy castle because it was drugged. So he saves him, and then Maggie, and then she sort of became a character in the books. And she was only sort of meant to be in one, but people reacted so strongly to it, and people kept sending me pictures of their dogs and stuff. So this is before I had a dog, because I obviously really wanted one, as my wife kept pointing out. So, so I do have surprisingly quite a lot of dogs. There's actually also a dog in the Stranger Times book 2, which I've just finished writing, although that one does talk. But yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. There was a question popped to my head then about dogs. Oh yeah, have you seen I Am Legend?
Yes. Oh god, yeah.
It's a good dog scene, wasn't it?
It was. Oh god, is that? Oh, don't give me upsetting images.
I'll bring the tone down just a little bit. Anyway,
this feels like payback for the Douglas Adams. me killing Douglas Adams that time.
Yeah, Chris is literally like, "Do you remember when that dog died?"
Yeah. Anyway,
thanks for that, Chris.
No worries. So we got a couple of. Let's finish off with some real random questions. Why not? And bring the mood back up, I guess, after that comment.
Yeah. Good luck, dead dogs. Let's see.
Yeah, dead dogs.
Let's see you save this car crash.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Oh no, definitely not.
Yes, get in.
That's Camp Chris there. Star Wars or Star Trek?
I gotta go Star Wars just because the Mandalorian's pulled it round a bit, I think.
Yeah.
Although there's a lot of talk about the final episode of season 2. I won't talk about it because I won't
don't
spoilers.
Yeah.
But people aren't happy.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it did feel a bit odd, but still, just the aesthetic was great.
But at least that's the end of season 2, where it's like Game of Thrones. No one liked the ending of the complete series.
To be fair, I thought people were always going to be disappointed with the end of Game of Thrones. So I think they were onto a hiding for nothing, to be honest. I mean, they could have done a bit better. I thought, actually, to completely go random, and the big battle scene that was in the 4th one, that felt like the end. I think the problem they had was they had too many things to tie up. It's like in the game. It's like in the Lord of the Rings, where there's half an hour of, oh, by the way, this person happened. And look, I can talk. I've got books with 4 different epilogues in them, so I'm no better. So,
okay, this is always a good one. That Darth Maul or Kylo Ren, which is a better bad guy?
Darth Maul.
Yes.
Kylo Ren just felt a bit whiny. Oh,
yeah, he did. That's exactly what I said.
Darth Maul appeared for like 5 minutes, and then
but he's a badass for 5 minutes. That's what you want.
Yeah, I mean, who are you going to dress up as Halloween? You're not dressing up as emo Darth Maul. No, or emo thingy. Darth Maul every time.
Kylo Ren.
Yeah, Darth Maul every time. No, I mean, they didn't do much with him. And once you got around the fact that he went, but he looked really good doing that though, and that makes up for a lot.
Oh wow. The Beatles or Elvis?
I'll go with the Beatles. I'll go with the Beatles.
I'd say so. Chris, any more of those? I can't remember.
I started a new one last week. Prince or Michael Jackson?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I think I'll go with Prince just to be on the safe side. Thanks. I mean, I know there's still some, but yeah, let's go with Prince because he was just. I mean, he was just by all accounts a bit crazy, but they're all a bit crazy. But let's go with Prince.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Excellent. All right, we're due to finish up now, so let people know. In fact, I will put this on screen, but you can let people know that your website link and where they can find this new book of yours.
It's Stranger Times. Just go to the strangertimes.co.uk. Oh, I should mention. Oh, my wife will keep it up mention. We've got a podcast where I wrote a load of short stories and I got them narrated by comedy friends of mine. And there's about 14 episodes right now. We just finished season 1. Where they're brand new short stories that I wrote because 2020 there's nothing else to do, so I ended up writing far too many short stories and getting them professionally produced, and they're great. I'm really pleased with that. To go to the podcast, I mean, obviously the book as well, but the podcast. Yeah. And you get them all at strangetimes.co.uk. And if you want to know about the other books, go to whitehairedirishman.com because no one can spell queeve. Oh, there you go. Let me just check you spelled white-haired Irishman correctly. Yeah, good.
I did because I copied pasted that straight in there.
So as well, on the back of the Stranger Times, we've got some really good recommendations as well from some quite famous authors. So I'm going to read a few of them. Okay. So, wonderfully dark, extremely funny, an advocate of Terry Pratchett, which I think is the highest compliment I can give. Then the next one, hilarious. Oh, sorry, that was from Adam K.
Evocative. Good God, man!
Yeah, it was.
Evocative of Terry Pratchett.
It was.
Adam K is not anything. He knows how to speak.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I've had a lot of hot toddies. Next one. Hilarious. You'll never look at Manchester the same way again. And that was Jason Manford, who is obviously a comedian and a great opera singer. And then
he
the
is.
last
I
one,
mean, he's a quadruple threat, Manfred. He does everything annoyingly well.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, he does it after his shows.
Yeah.
It's insane.
He's released an album, mate.
Never knew that.
Yeah, honestly, listen to him. He's brilliant.
Genuinely a very good actor as well.
And then this is Chris Brookmeyer as well. So I tore through the Stranger Times like an entertaining collision between the worlds of Mick Herron and Charlie Stross. It's a novel that proves ancient eldritch horror is no match for the old school journalism.
Yeah, that was genuinely really cool because I'm a huge Chris Brookmeyer fan, and they just sent it out to random authors that you give them names of, and he bless him just picked it up, liked it, and read it. And honestly, for all the things that have happened, the day I got the Chris Brookmeyer quote from my editor, for the next week I was just walking around the house smugly. And my wife was literally saying 2 days later, "You're thinking about the Chris Brookmeyer quote as well, aren't you?" Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And please, guys, please do check out the book and the website. We will leave links to that and the podcast. If you send us a link to that as well, we'll tweet that out.
And most of all, folks, sorry, just to cut across, for the love of God, bleed your radiators. That's all I ask.
Yeah, it's winter time. You need to do that. And please check out G Radcliff's book that is sponsoring the show tonight. Thank you for doing that. And look forward to Friday, and we will see you then. Thank you, guys. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.